I'm delighted to address you at the Reykjavik Global Forum as the leaders are gathering in Belém for this important COP30. The world is in a difficult place. We know that there are many problems of geopolitical tension, etc., and frankly, a very serious backlash against the women's movement and women's rights, which I hope you'll tackle hard in Reykjavik. There's also a sort of media attempt to almost downplay Belém, say, look, it's in the middle of the Amazon, people won't get there, it won't be able to decide anything at this point in time. But I remember, and it's worth remembering, before the Paris Agreement in 2015, I was the special envoy of the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and there was no agreement going into the Paris about the goal of Paris. There was certainly no agreement that it would include the words 1.5. We had marches in the street, I remember, 1.5 to stay alive. And inside, there was a high ambition coalition led by Tony de Brum of the tiny Marshall Islands, reflecting the indigenous peoples, the small island states, the civil society, pleading for 1.5 to be included. And we got the goal of staying well below 2 degrees Celsius and working for 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial standards. And the importance of that was then shortly afterwards, the IPCC in October 2018 explained that there is a big difference between 1.5 and 2 degrees, that in that time, coral reefs could disappear, the Arctic ice might melt, and the permafrost might melt, throwing up not just carbon, but methane. So we have to stay well below 1.5 degrees. There was none of that before Paris. We were heading for 4 degrees plus. So since then, we have seen a lot of progress. We've seen that renewable energy has become so much cheaper. We've seen long-term plans. About 90% of the world is committed now to be net zero. Implementation is another problem. And that's what Belém is going to be all about, implementation. Because now we know the climate shocks are already hitting the world. Unfortunately, they've been hitting the developing world, the world least responsible for the problem of global warming, much harder and much earlier, which brought me, of course, to climate justice, the injustice of climate change. Now it's hitting all over. It's hitting in California. It's hitting in Japan. It's hitting in all kinds of parts of Europe. But it's hitting also desperately in places like Pakistan, in places, Sudan, places of conflict are also facing terrible climate. So we need action and we need things to happen in Belém. And we know what those things are. We need governments, as they have done, to pledge their climate plans, their what's called nationally determined contributions. A very significant number of countries have pledged now, thank goodness. But unfortunately, it's not ambitious enough. So what we're saying is these plans are a floor, not a ceiling. And we have to encourage every year an increase in ambition to close the gap that exists at the moment. And we need lots of other things, the fulfilling of earlier commitments to triple renewable energy, to double energy efficiency, and in particular, to triple climate finance going forward. We have the road from Baku to Belém, which is to secure a roadmap to secure the 1.3 trillion by 2035 for developing countries. That's the minimum. And we have to think about that roadmap. We need a roadmap for just transition, which will be really important. And just transition means some countries, the developed world, which is responsible, must go quicker. And we have the capability to go quicker. And we know there's a problem that the United States, once more, under the Trump administration, has pulled out of the Paris Agreement. But the rest of the world is committed to going forward, and that's the important thing. And we need the coalitions of the willing. And the Brazilians have been very clever in the action plans to link in the what governments will do, which is most important, and that's what the COP is at the core of the COP, but also the action plan. And before COP, we had the meetings in Sao Paulo and in Rio of subnational groups and business. We're going to link all that in to what's called the global stocktake link it in and count it as being the ways we move forward. And of course, we had something that all of us in Project Dandelion felt very strongly about, the global ethical stocktake. There was an opportunity in the 6 regions and at the Faith, the 10th anniversary also of Laudato Si, the great encyclical of Pope Francis, near Rome. We were able to have a stocktake, a global ethical stocktake there. And many groups, and hopefully some of you were involved in a global ethical stocktake. We're trying to make a decision of Belém to make it a permanent feature of the meetings of the climate COPs, that there will be an emphasis every 5 years on a technical global stocktake of what governments do, but that every year we'll talk about the ethical global stocktake so that we can push through meetings that take place during the year, etc. So I'm excited and will be in Belém fighting. And one of the things I will be watching is the Gender Action Plan. There's a good draft that was prepared in Bonn by women working very hard on the draft Gender Action Plan, which must be adopted. I'm hearing that the backlash may affect it too. There are attempts to undermine, push back on words like gender, on words like women's rights, on reproductive health and rights. So we will have another fight on our hands. And somehow that will link the global forum at Reykjavik and what we're trying to do here in Belém. So I wish you all the best. I noted the wonderful women's strike in Iceland, the 50th anniversary of it, and the participation of your wonderful president, Halla Thomasdóttir. So I hope that you will be full of energy and full of commitment, and that we will move forward together, because that's what we have to do. Thank you very much.